Hey everybody, what's up, JB? How's it going? I am really excited to bring you another episode of the 151 greatest Pokemon of all time. But first, on this episode, I finally I finally splurged on Spotify Premium. In the background, I have just a little bit of music. I don't know if you can really even hear it right now, but I am playing the album Johto Legends by Braxton Burks. I'll drop that in the chat because you should all listen to it because it is amazing. It is like, no, that's not how you spell Johto. It is absolutely incredible. It's kind of like orchestral versions of the Generation 2 songs, and you know, I'm a Gen 2 fanboy. So Braxton, if you're out there, I really appreciate your work and hope more people can listen to it. Anyway, we are back. We are back with the 151 greatest Pokemon of all time. Now, we're going to do a quick recap. Last episode, if you recall, we had a ton of honorable mentions here. We have... Well, first we have my beautiful introduction. I feel like I want this to be different. Okay, there we go. That's a little bit better. Yes. So, we have our introduction here. I love Lugia. And here we're kind of... I'll give you just a little lowdown. We are trying to rank the 151 greatest Pokemon of all time objectively, and the criteria is kind of something that I came up with myself, just like something that we can give each of these Pokemon an actual resume outside of just like vibes, even though vibes are certainly part of the equation. Like the video games, the design, the trading card game, anime and other media, all of these things create the rich tapestry that is the resume of each Pokemon. So, and here I'm just saying I don't know everything. I don't know everything there is to know about Pokemon. I just thought this would be really fun to do. Anyway, so honorable mentions. I went into a nice little blurb on all of these last time. You can read off all of the names yourself. I will just add once again that any of these Pokemon could credibly be on the list itself. These were just the ones that I decided not to put on for whatever reason. And as we kind of continue through the lower, kind of like the lower levels of the list, any of those Pokemon could be honorable mentions. Like any of these Pokemon could be number 151, for example, which, if you recall, was Wobbuffet. And also, we have my little babies, my personal favorites, Noctowl, Dunsparce, Kingler, and Nihilego. I love these Pokemon very much. They're all personal favorites of mine, and ones that I do think merited consideration for whatever reason. And then finally, these were my last four out. These were the ones that were the closest to making the list, but that did not actually make the list. And again, objective process. You could argue, like I had Torterra back in regular honorable mention. You could say that Torterra has more of a case than Darmanitan, if you really want to. That's not quite how I saw it, but, you know. And another quick recap. Here at number 151, we have everybody's favorite punching bag pal, Wobbuffet, with its true form being in the tail down there. And then at number 150, we have everybody's favorite bull Pokemon, Tauros. Oh, thank you, Mom. How are you? Yes, it's so... the Braxton Burke stuff is so good, and it's so just very easy to listen to. Really helps you get in the mood. It's not too loud or quiet, is it? It's okay if it's pretty quiet because we're chatting. I just don't want it to be too loud. Anyway, I believe you. Oh, there are some really good metal covers. hold on. I must read, I have a really incredible Pokemon metal cover. First of all, Red by Silver Cave. That's the best one. And you should listen to that a million times on Spotify if you'd like. Oh, Toxic X Eternity. He's like a big kind of like YouTube video game cover guy. He does a Sprout Tower theme that is so freaking good. I love it. But that's a music rec for free. But that's right. One Pokemillion. So I want to put a little disclaimer on this episode. I feel like maybe I didn't do a good enough job last time, and I apologize. If you are following me specifically on our trip through Pokemon history, and you have not played all of the other Pokemon games before, there's going to be tons of spoilers on this list. So if you haven't played those before, I implore you to just be warned that I will be talking about any Pokemon game. Any Pokemon game is fair game as far as our discussion for this list tonight and beyond. So, 150 was Tauros. Now, before we get into 149, I was really kind of agonizing over this one a little bit because I kind of gave myself a hard deadline that I would just at whatever point finish the list and be done with it and not look at it because I could tweak it forever. But this was one that I'm like, maybe he's not quite on the list. But here we go. Number 149, Corviknight. Now, again, Corviknight was one. Corviknight is the poster child for it could be an honorable mention, it could be on the list, it could be wherever. It could be number 300 for somebody, but I believe that it does have a case to be on the list, and that case is as follows. So, first of all, it is a key team member of your rival Hop in the Sword and Shield games. Now, the overall story of Sword and Shield leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion. However, the story of Hop and his brother Leon, that is the core of that story. That is one of the great things about the Sword and Shield story, is the Hop-Leon player character dynamic. Anyway, so Hop's a very strong rival, in my opinion. Corviknight is a very key member of his squad, and it gets a Gigantamax form, which looks a little something like this, and by a little something, a lot of something. Super cool. For those of you that don't know, Gigantamax is a lot like a Mega Evolution, but it just gets really, really big. Every Pokemon can Dynamax, which is just that Pokemon really big, but a Gigantamax is a little bit more of a special form, and some design elements will change. Like here, Corviknight gets the red wings, it gets the little kind of shooters all around it. So this is really cool, a really great alternate form for Corviknight. Love this. But it's got an iconic design. Like, this Pokemon was one of the key Pokemon for Generation 8. It was one of the first ones that they revealed. It is a Raven Pokemon. It is a flying steel type. This, along with Skarmory, are both great Pokemon. So on flying steel type, they are absolutely 2 for 2. And regarding its type, I did want to mention that its pre-evolutions, Rookidee and Corvisquire, are both pure flying type. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm almost positive. They are both pure flying type, which is really, really cool and something that's quite rare in the franchise. And then it goes from pure flying into kind of like the armored Raven that we see. Very, whatchamacallit, Edgar Allan Poe, because Sword and Shield is based on the UK. So I think Corviknight really holds a lot of the weight of the entire region in its design, which is really great. I think its design is objectively awesome. I think many people would agree with me there. Yes, finally we get to some iconic lore. And this is really funny. Someone the other day was like, take a drink every time he says iconic. I'm going to be saying the word iconic a lot. But as we get into the iconic lore, it is a taxi service around Galar in Generation 8. So you don't have to teach your Pokemon fly. You can fly on the Corviknight taxi service. And as we get into the TCG cards that I wanted to... Yes, right here. Look at these. You have the regular version of Corviknight flying the taxi around with its feet. But then you have the Gigantamax version flying around the taxi on its head. I think this is a nice little story. I love these two cards. And yeah, even with its limited time being a Pokemon, Corviknight has made an impact on the TCG. Love these two artworks here. And yes, in addition to that and being a great hop Pokemon, it has some great lore with Tinkaton, which is a Generation 9 Pokemon, in that Corviknight and Tinkaton have an adversarial relationship in nature, because Tinkaton is a Pokemon that's trying to collect metal pieces to create this weapon, and it is always attacking Corviknight that fly by, which is really interesting and cool because Tinkaton is like it's like a fairy steel type, very cute. So I love that, and there's actually a really great piece of anime media. I don't remember what it's from. It might be a short where there's this awesome animation of a Tinkaton and a Corviknight fighting. It's so sick. I don't remember where I saw it, but all of those, for me, are reasons why Corviknight deserves a spot on this list. Now, you could argue that it does not, but this is where I landed. So today, Corviknight, number 149. All right, so that brings us to 148. Now, I struggled with this one a little bit, but I think it's definitely deserving, so let's move on. The number 148th greatest Pokemon of all time, we have Sylveon. Now, Sylveon is obviously going to get a lot of consideration as an evolution. That, in and of itself, is a huge plus. But since it came out later, it is the most recent evolution. It's not going to be able to build as much of a resume. But in its limited time, it has some great things going for it. So, let's talk about it. We talked about how it was the most recent evolution. Now, for me, I kind of order the evolutions in like 3 categories. You have the OGs, Jolteon, Flareon, Vaporeon. You have the original editions in Umbreon and Espeon. And then you have the newer editions, Glaceon, Leafeon, Sylveon. Even though Glaceon and Leafeon were added in Gen 4 and Sylveon was added in Gen 6, I kind of group those together a little bit. Those are like the new ones in my brain, in my OG Pokemon brain. Anyway, Sylveon, I think, is certainly the most popular of the new evolutions as I categorize them. And I think people would agree. I would, if you took a poll of 1,000 random Pokemon enjoyers, they would probably have Leafeon and Glaceon near the bottom of their lists as well. But Sylveon is probably the best of those. It was a mascot for the Fairy type. The Fairy type was introduced in Generation 6, and Sylveon, of course, debuted in Generation 6 as a poster child for the type. It was a really big deal when they added it. People thought they could add a light type, perhaps. And Fairy type was the big foil to Dragon type that they had been needing for years. And Sylveon, again, was the mascot for that. And as such, when they added the gym leader in Kalos, Valerie, the Fairy type gym leader, Sylveon is her ace Pokemon, which is lovely. We talk about this iconic, cute design. I think Sylveon's design does have some detractors. Some people don't like the eyes, those blue eyes. They think they're kind of weird or bug-like. Oh, no doubt better than Gen 4 editions. I completely am with you, Mom, obviously. But the pink, the ribbons, the bow, it's very, very, very cute. And for that reason, it's probably one of the coolest Pokemon that were designed to be inherently cute. Like your Pinkies, like your Jigglypuff, your Clefairies, you know. It's probably the coolest of those kind of Pokemon. So that's why I think it deserves a spot. Now, it is a member of Team Star Penny. Now, if you have not played the Generation 9 Scarlet and Violet games, this is a spoiler, but there is a big fight with a rival slash enemy, I guess, named Penny. And she has a team of all evolutions, and Sylveon is featured there. It's a key fight in Generation 9. And then iconic modern TCG. I don't remember what I linked here. Yes. So Sylveon, along with all of the evolutions, gained awesome full art cards like this one in Evolving Skies. And Evolving Skies is a huge modern set in the TCG. It was released. It was a sword and shield set. Evolving Skies is incredible. I believe that's what this is from. This is like the Dynamax version of Sylveon. That's why it's so big. But also, more recently here in Prismatic Evolution, Sylveon is a great, whatchamacallit, full art card. Let me... Evolutions... So let's look here. Hello? May I please? Love this music. Okay, great. So here is that Sylveon from Prismatic Evolutions. Really, really awesome. As you can see, lightly played, it is $450. All of the cards from this set are absolutely absurd. I'll just keep TCG Player up. But yeah, so you put all those things together, and I think Sylveon deserves a spot. You can make an argument for every single evolution, but spoiler alert, not all of them will make it. Okay, great. Sylveon, number 148. Now, this is going to be fun because I'm not going to remember exactly what is next in each time around. So that'll be awesome. So, at number 147, we have Munchlax. Munchlax is so interesting. It is a baby Pokemon. It was introduced in Generation 4, and just the fact that it's connected to Snorlax does a lot for it. So, it's connected to Snorlax. As we remember, it is the baby Pokemon to Snorlax. We love it for that. Another big deal, it was a Generation 4 mascot. It was a bridge Pokemon. So, there will be kind of a lot of weight given to Pokemon that debut before their generation. Like Meryl was one of those Pokemon, and why I considered it for the list. However, Meryl did not have it could not ride the coattails of Azumarill like Munchlax can ride the coattails, so to speak, of Snorlax, because Snorlax will appear far later on this list, as you might be able to surmise. So here we have Munchlax connected to Snorlax. Featured in Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness, one of my favorite Pokemon games, a very, very popular game among fans of the series, for the GameCube. And that was a game that kind of came out between Gens 3 and 4. So Munchlax was able to be a mascot there. In Generation 4, we have this goofy mascot kind of title. There are a lot of Pokemon that really, really stand out for being goofy in a great way, and they are iconic in that way for that reason. Probably some other Pokemon are coming to your brain right now. We may or may not see them on this list. But being a goofy mascot is like a clear niche in the eyes of the Pokemon Company, and something very valuable, something very cute. Obviously, like, look at it, how adorable that scrappy little guy is. You remember seeing him in the Deoxys Rayquaza movie. Yes, that is a great pull. I do not have that listed on his resume. That's awesome. Destiny Deoxys, I believe that's called. So, goofy mascot of Generation 4 Bridge Pokemon. And you're talking about the Deoxys Rayquaza movie. That is just another example of it being a Bridge Pokemon. In the Generation 4 games, it has absolutely iconic rarity. Meaning the only way to find this Pokemon in the OG Generation 4 games was using honey trees, where you had to put honey on these trees, and then after a certain amount of time, you had to check back. Now, that alone was a really difficult, arduous process, but add in the fact that Munchlax was extremely rare as well. So not only was it time intensive, it was also extremely rare. And I spoke a little bit in our Gen 4 playthrough about how our rival is like clearly is famously impatient. That's part of his character. Kind of has like maybe ADHD perhaps. But he is able to train a Snorlax and find a Munchlax via honey trees. It kind of is a big showing of patience / perhaps hyperfixation. But that's a great part of his character in Generation 4. Munchlax is famous for being one of the rarest Pokemon to be able to find naturally in its game, and that is a great feather in its cap. And as I was explaining, it is a team member of your rival, Barry. The fact that your rival carries a Snorlax, I think, is really cool in those games. I really, really like that. Munchlax is also very rare. Speaking of Sinnoh, we are playing through Legends Arceus right now. Munchlax is very rare in Legends Arceus. A very fun Pokemon to find. I was looking for him in the hot springs of the Icelands, but we can find him in the Obsidian Fieldlands as well. That's where we ended up finding him. And finally, Munchlax is the partner Pokemon of Mai, who you meet in Legends Arceus. She is the warden of Weirdeer. And she actually gives you your first mount Pokemon in that game. And Munchlax is her little buddy. It's her little guy. And just look at that little guy. He is number 147 in the 151 greatest Pokemon of all time, and he is so happy about it. So let's move along. At number 146, we have Nidoqueen. Now, Nidoking gets a ton of notoriety for being super, super sick, and it's deserved. But I think Nidoqueen doesn't quite get enough, so we're going to try to remedy that today. Nidoqueen at 146. Its connection to Nidoking is a big deal because people love Nidoking. Nidoking is, for many, many reasons, a very popular Pokemon. Specifically in the anime. I feel like people think of Nidoking as more of a Giovanni Pokemon, but Nidoqueen is actually, if you really kind of dig through the media, Nidoqueen is kind of more of a key Pokemon for Giovanni. It is a Gym Leader Giovanni team member 3 times. So Nidoqueen is featured on Giovanni's team in the Generation 1 games, featured on Giovanni's team in the Generation 3 remakes, and also featured on Giovanni's team in... What am I missing? Oh, yeah, in the Let's Go games. Right? Yeah, he's in Let's Go. Yeah, he's in Let's Go. No! Yeah, he's in Let's Go. I was really second-guessing myself there for a second. Hold on. Okay, yeah, Okay, yes, I absolutely remember this now. Because I know Let's Go kind of takes place in a different kind of universe, but that's why I was second-guessing myself there for a second. But yes, he has Nidoqueen 3 times. I was correct originally, thankfully. But let's see here. Okay. All right, so we're back. So not only is Nidoqueen a member of Giovanni's team 3 different times in the video game series, it is Giovanni's ace in the Sylph Company fight in the Generation 1 game specifically. I believe also in Generation 3. So his last act as a Team Rocket leader, essentially, when you fight him at Sylph Company. I guess you could argue his gym leader fight is that as well, but his last fight as a Rocket member, he uses Nidoqueen as his ace. And that is further emphasized in Pokemon Origins, because Pokemon Origins was a kind of like an anime special that I really loved, and it was 4 episodes, I believe, and it covered like it wasn't Ash and Pikachu, it was Red and his adventures in beating all the gyms and catching all the Pokemon. Like, first episode covers like Brock in the first gym, kind of like the first part of his journey. Second episode covered like Team Rocket and like the Pokemon Tower. Third episode covered like Giovanni stuff, and fourth episode covered like becoming the champion and whatnot. So Pokemon Origins is super sick. Anyway, I say all that to say, in the Giovanni episode, Nidoqueen is like his key Pokemon, which is super, super sick. I connect Nidoqueen to Giovanni a lot. And it has this classic kaiju design. I really, really like its design. It is the perfect female counterpart to Nidoking. I think they both play off of each other so, so well. And it really captures kind of like that old school Sugimori style with Nidoking, with a Pokemon like Rhydon, or even like Tyranitar. That style is something that Pokemon was built on in its early days. So I think Nidoqueen gets a lot of credit for that. It does have a lovely holo in the jungle set. Look at that. Look at that holofoil pattern, that star holofoil pattern. Man, that gets me every time. I love this. Also, I love boyfriends. Does 20 damage plus 20 more damage for each Nidoking you have in play. Hey, that makes sense. Even though, I will say, I have next to here failed clones, because Nidoqueen actually can't breed. And people think that it might be a failed clone of Nidoran, or maybe it's the other way around. But people think the reason that there's like a male version and a female version, but they can't breed, is that there's some kind of weird cloning situation going on. Do you even know anything about Pokemon? You know what's funny is I'm sitting here, and to the layman, I might seem like the most scholarly Pokemon nerd you've ever seen, but there are people that know way more than me. But welcome, Chloe. Thanks for being here. It's posted up to fight in that card. That's so right. Let's hit that one more time. Just ready. Let's do it. Get that mean mug. Love Nidoqueen. I think very deserving to be on the list. That connection to Giovanni is really that main component there. All right. Let's move on. So, next we have number 145. Regigigas. So at number 145, we have Regigigas. I want to make this picture bigger. Ah, there we go. That looks more correct to me. So we have Regigigas. It is the trio master of the legendary golems, you might call them. Regice, Registeel, and Regirock. Excuse me. It is an interesting Pokemon. There's a lot that goes with it. I talk about its iconic lore in that it is sealed away in Snow Point Temple, and it is the trio master of those three Pokemon. Also, in the Generation 8 games, it is connected to Regieleki and Regidrago. So just the fact that Regigigas is the leader of all of those great Pokemon, that is a big thing for it. I really like the design, obviously. I kind of love the earthy grass thing on kind of like the blank slate. It's a normal type. And that just kind of gives it the kind of like worldly, like original one type energy. And there will be another Pokemon on this list that we'll see. It's a legendary Pokemon. Or is it technically a mythical? Someone help me out. Is Regigigas a mythical? Oh, it reminds you of a Ben 10 alien. Yes, I can see that. I never really watched Ben 10 very much, but I definitely know what you're saying. I definitely know what you're saying there. Also love how the eyes, the red, blue, and gray, remind you of Regirock, Ice, and Steel, respectively. Talked about that iconic rarity in the Snow Point Temple. So, in the Generation 4 games, if I'm not mistaken, commenters correct me, you needed to complete the Pokedex to gain entry into Snow Point Temple. And if you recall, completing the Pokedex is a little different, a little easier in that game. But you could not actually encounter Regigigas until you had all three Regis in the game. And for that, it was extremely rare to encounter it. And even more rare in Generation 4 because there was kind of this weird thing where it was kind of like impossible to encounter it in Generation 4, even though you could technically. So iconic rarity for Regigigas. It does have a feature, and tiny spoiler alert for the game we're playing right now, but in Pokemon Legends Arceus, we're going to be able to see Regigigas in that game. Come on. Snow Point Temple's in there. Obviously, we're going to be able to see Regigigas. So it gets a nice feature in that game as well. And the last thing I want to talk about is its iconic ability. In the game, Regigigas has an ability called Slow Start, which means its attack and speed are halved, I think, at the start of every battle. And it does not get it back until 5 turns in, I'm pretty sure. So Regigigas is actually pretty terrible. But once its slow start goes away, it's completely incredible. It's a lot like slacking in that way. It's like the original slacking. And I guess Regigigas can kind of be the representative for slacking in that way on this list. Love Regigigas. I think it's super cool. It is kind of interesting how it's the key member of the Regis, but maybe not quite as remembered as some of the other ones, obviously. But I think Regigigas is a great Pokemon. Has a lot of things going for it. Deserves a spot on this list. Oh, it actually has a pretty cool card in Crown Zenith. I want to... Oops, there we go. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, look at that. Regigigas V-Star in Crown Zenith. That is absolutely lovely. Look at that. I might have to pick that up. I love that card. It's carrying the whole world on its back. That is sick. Very, very cool. Okay. All right. Okay, so it's about $10 card. Lovely. What am I doing? I need to go back here. Okay, cool. So now, let's go ahead and move along. So now, here we go. Number 144 is Toxtricity. You can still see my... oh, wait, no. All right. You're going to just have the red line. I don't care. So, number 144 is Toxtricity. This is another one of the newer Pokemon on our list. I love, as you can see, I've included both forms. I think both forms are super sick. One design piece I must point out. Here, the blue Toxtricity is supposed to be like chill, like a bass player would be. And the amped form in the yellow over here is like the lead guitar player. Ooh, what's up, Loctess? And so the blue form is the bass player. The yellow form is the guitar player. They play these little kind of like sax, I guess, on their chest that creates noise. And the bass player has 4, and the guitar player has 6, which is traditionally what a bass guitar and what an electric guitar would have. So that's a really cool design piece that I love about Toxtricity, a great thing for it. The best Gen 8 Pokemon, says Mom. Hey, I wouldn't fight you too much on this. Toxtricity is extremely popular. It is a gift Pokemon. It has a baby form. It's really you don't get Toxtricity proper. As a gift, you get its baby form Toxel. The Toxtricity of our city, so true. So yeah, it's a gift Pokemon, making it a Generation 8 mascot. It's a very popular Pokemon to have on your team in the Sword and Shield games. In my first playthrough of Shield, I had a Toxtricity. I think I had the base form. I also hate that the baby has a diaper on, but hey, we're not talking about Toxel. We're talking about Toxtricity, baby. And as it is a Generation 8 mascot, it's really interesting because it has its own statue in Sword and Shield. And I remember this was a big thing when those games were first coming out. People didn't know what the statue in... forgive me. Someone help me in the chat or the comments. What is the city where Nessa is the gym leader? It's the Water City, right by the lighthouse. There is a statue of Toxtricity out there. Yeah, some of the newer cities I'm just not good with. But anyway, it has its own statue in Galar, which is really, really cool. Some people think that the mound mural in Turffield, I remember that town, is a Toxtricity as well. Some people have said that, maybe like a Gigantamax one. And speaking of which, it has a Gigantamax form that is absolutely sick. If you look here, it is certainly one of the key ones, because again, Dynamax is just regular getting bigger. Gigantamax gives it an actual alternate form. And here you really see more of those kind of like frog-like, lizard-like design inspirations. And kind of talking about those I don't want to call them sacks, that sounds weird. But those sacks on its chest, is very frog inspired. But the Gigantamax form is absolutely sick. Love the antenna, tail kind of sticking up there. The eyes are awesome. The new pose we love. So that Gigantamax form is great. The fact that it gets 2 forms in general, big feather in the cap. We love to see that. And it is the ace Pokemon of Gym Leader Rhyme in the Scarlet and Violet games. Now, Rhyme is the ghost gym leader in that game, but she has a Toxtricity as her ace because all of the gym leaders in that game do that game's gimmick terrestrialize, so she can change her Toxtricity's type to ghost. And she is like her character is that she's a musician, so she's of course going to have a loud, raucous Pokemon like Toxtricity as her ace, which we love. And any Pokemon like this that gets a gym leader ace slot, that's always gonna be points for it. But the last thing I wanted to show about Toxtricity, in the original Wizards of the Coast run of the Pokemon cards, they had some light Pokemon and dark Pokemon cards, which were super, super cool. But for the 25th anniversary celebrations, they did a promo light Toxtricity. And just look at this. This is great. It's really in the style of like an old Wizards of the Coast promo. I love this card. And they had a couple of these promos that came out that I thought were so great. I think I have several copies of each because they were so cheap to pick up, and I really, really love what they did with kind of taking newer Pokemon and giving them like an old school kind of card that they never could have had. Love this light Toxtricity card. Love it. slow ballad and beat down smash. 160 power. Goodness gracious. But again, I never played the TCG. I think I've explained that. I'm just a collector. I'm merely a collector. But all that to say, that is why Toxtricity is the 144th greatest Pokemon of all time. I think it has a strong case, as strong a case as any newer Pokemon can have. And this is crazy. I love how long this list is taking. Wow, we're gonna have lots of episodes of this. Okay, let's move on. Ooh, what's the song here? Ooh, the 3 legendary beasts. Gosh, okay. All right, let's move along. Number 143, we have everybody's favorite pile of sludge. We have Muck. I have always loved Muck, and yes, it might just be a pile of sludge, but I think it has a strong resume, and you are all going to find out right now. So, Muck, first and foremost, is a featured Pokemon of Ash Ketchum. In the original Kanto anime, Ash catches a Muck because it's kind of like terrorizing like this town, and there's Magnemite. I don't remember everything, but he catches the Muck. And I'm going straight to the bonus here at the bottom of the resume because it says Muck stifles Bellsprout in the Indigo Pokemon League. So, this is pretty similar to Kingler because Ash catches Muck kind of like midway through his journey through the Indigo League. I will not, Mom. I will not say Muck backwards. But Ash catches Muck kind of like midway through his journey in the Indigo League. And you never really see it. He just lives at Professor Oak's lab. He kind of like gets all over Professor Oak. And it's funny because he's smelly and whatever. Anyway, you don't see Muck forever. But then Ash gets to like the final round of like the first round of the Pokemon League. And he is facing this completely OP Bellsprout, has no idea what to do with it. It knocked out his Bulbasaur, knocked out Pikachu, and we think that this Bellsprout's going to end up sweeping his whole team. And Little do we know, Ash has one ace in the hole. I remember he's just like focusing. He's like, all right, I'm ready to go. And he throws out his Pokeball, and it is Muck. He has literally never used Muck in a battle ever before. But he knew that Muck would be great against the Bellsprout. The Bellsprout has nothing against Muck, and Muck just smothers it with a body slam and just kills this OP Bellsprout, makes it faint, and Ash wins the battle. That alone is great. You can highlight it all you want. I'm not going to do it. Because I think we all know what it would sound like if you say Muck backwards. Anyway, so it's not just that. I obviously love that, but it is a key member of not only Koga's gym leader team. Muck is a key member of Koga's Elite Four team. So he is featured on Koga's team in Generation 1 Kanto, Generation 3 Kanto, Generation 8 Kanto, as well as Generation 2 Johto and Generation 4 Johto. So Muck is a key Pokemon of Koga, famous, awesome ninja character that everybody knows and loves. That was really one of the things that, like, wow, Muck's got to be on the list because he's such a key Pokemon for Koga. In addition, we have this great regional form that, as I understand it, became a competitive staple. It's not that much different. It just kind of has like the trash crystals and the different colors. But this regional form of Muck is super, super cool. Also gains the dark type, which made it really competitively viable at the time, as I understand it. This was introduced in Alola Generation 7, which is key because this was the first game that regional forms were introduced. So they decided to bless Muck with a regional form in the original game where they did it. So that's pretty cool. And then it's also a Team Rocket staple. You'll see Muck on Team Rocket teams in generations 1, 2, 3, and 4. And really, being a Team Rocket staple does kind of do a lot for you, as we'll kind of figure out later. But the main thing is that connection to Koga, which is really, really awesome, and the regional form. But I want to shout out a couple more cards. It does get a holographic card in Fossil here, which it's kind of funny because this is kind of famously like the worst holo in Fossil, but it gets a OG WotC holo. That does a lot for you. And then I do want to shout this out. I don't talk much about the e-reader sets, but this Aquapolis holographic is absolutely incredible. And Muck is drawn differently here in a way that's just really intriguing and really epic and cool. I think it looks very kind of like old monster movie here. This Muck card is absolutely wonderful, and really wanted to shout this out for you guys. And with that, that's about what I got on Muck. Muck is super cool. Again, very, very simple design, but a design that I think works really well. All right, let's keep rolling. We got to get through 10 tonight. Let's see. Let's move on. Number 142, we have Vileplume. I feel like Vileplume is a Pokemon that doesn't quite get its due, but when you really comb through the resume, you realize that it definitely deserves a spot. It's a lot like Muck in how it is featured on Gym Leader and Elite Four teams. It is the ace Pokemon of Erica in Gen 1, Gen 3, and Gen 8. It's also featured on Karen's Elite Four team in the Generation 2 Johto games, Generation 4 Johto games. Additionally, okay, Vileplume backwards. Emulpeliv. Ebopaliv. I'll say that one backwards. Anyway, not only does it get kind of like the muck treatment in that it's featured by Erica and Karen a bunch of times, it is a team member of the champion Trace. And Trace is kind of a famously bad champion, but he is a champion, and he has Vileplume on his team. That's in Let's Go. Yes, thank you for saying that. Vileplume is featured in Pokemon Snap. I love the original Pokemon Snap. And if you remember, not the jungly area. One is river. Yeah, it's the river area, because then there's the valley. In the river area, Vileplume is kind of like emitting like a stinky gas from its flower, and you have to make it emerge and take a picture of it. And oh gosh, guys, we will certainly play the original Pokemon Snap on this channel. I love that game very, very much. And that was definitely a factor in me including Vileplume. But Vileplume's big point getter was just all of these Gym Leader and Elite Four features. Really, really great for that. Love that Snap. It gained a branch evolution in Generation 2. Kind of like the sun to Vileplume's moon. Bellossom is like the OG, one of the OG Pokemon to evolve with a Sunstone. And you can see why. It's very happy, very sunny. It's a pure grass type, not grass and poison like Vileplume. And Vileplume, I kind of talked about this in our Gen 2 playthrough. It kind of became the moon to Bellossom's sun, which is really cool. As a split evolution for Oddish. Let's see. Pokemon Snap stream win at some point. That's all I can promise you. It'll happen at some point. And then we're going to feature some cards, man. But just look at Bellossom. I will say, I decided to feature Vileplume on this list. Bellossom didn't quite make it, but Bellossom has one of my favorite Pokemon cards of all time, and I need to let's have a look. Oh, guys. Just a quick little story time. I was at school one day. This would have been, I think, like first grade. And I think I had traded for a Japanese Bellossom from Neo Genesis. I love this card because of this. And I remember stupidly, I put it in my pocket. So then there was just a big crease in it. So I kind of ruined the card. But I love this card because of that story. I think it's such a great, evocative, colorful, beautiful artwork. And it reminds me of that story. So I gotta shout out this Bellossom card. I know I'm talking about Vileplume here, but I wanted to shout that out. Oh my gosh, and I haven't even talked about Vileplume's hollows. We've got Erica's Vileplume. This was in Gym Heroes, looks like. A nice hollow there. We have its original Jungle Hollow, which, oh yeah, you get that beautiful like CG art there, which other Pokemon had art like this. I actually weirdly like it. I could be biased just because I'm old and like the old stuff, but having like one of the OG hollows is really, really cool. And then finally we have the Dark Vileplume hollow, and this is in the Team Rocket set. This might be my favorite hollow card that Vileplume received in the OG TCG. I think it's super, super cool, and it kind of leans into that dark type energy that it has from Karen. All right. And that's about all I got for Vileplume. I think it definitely has the resume. Again, all of those features in Gym Leaders and Elite Fours. Really, really big for it. And I mean, it's a classic OG Pokemon. It's had a lot of time to build that resume. All right, we can get to a couple more tonight. We'll make sure we get 10. All right. 141, we have Talonflame, another one of our newer members of the list. Excuse me. Big thing for Talonflame. Big thing. One fun fact, I don't really like its English name, Talonflame. I think it's kind of silly. It doesn't really roll off the tongue. But does not change how awesome its design is. It's like a fire falcon. That's sick. Fire falcon in general. You could have called it Fire Falcon and I would have liked it. Anyway, it was the first regional bird to take an elemental type. So if we just kind of like run through it, we got Pidgey, normal flying. We got Noctowl, normal flying. Swellow, normal flying. Staraptor, normal flying. Unpheasant, normal flying. Then finally, you get to Gen 6, Fletchling evolves into the fire-flying Talonflame. Super, super sick. Shares a type with Charizard, for God's sake. That's a big deal. And I think that is it puts it in a cool place in Pokemon history. Not only that, it was a big Pokemon for Ash Ketchum in the later anime. I will admit, I am not very well versed in the later anime seasons, but I do know that Talonflame is a very key Pokemon of Ash, which was one of the reasons I thought I wanted to bring it on here. We have kind of like a more, what's the word? There are a couple Pokemon like this on this list, but it is a member of Elite Four, Crispin's team. And I put Elite Four in quotes because in the Scarlet and Violet DLC, the Indigo Disc, you fight like a second Elite Four, but it's really like the Elite Four of the Blueberry Academy. So, and they all have super awesome teams, and Crispin is the Fire-type Elite Four member, features Talonflame on his squad. But it's also the ace of the Elite Four Malva in Generation 6. And it is a huge Pokemon. It's a huge mascot for Generation 6 in that way. It is featured as an Elite Four ace. It is the regional bird. It is the first elemental bird. It has that incredible design. Simple, but just great. That simple Fire Falcon design. You gotta love that. And kind of like the last thing I wanted to mention on Talonflame is that it had an iconic era of VGC. Again, not super well versed in VGC. I am not a competitive Pokemon player. I do listen to some stuff by like Wolf or other like competitive people. But I know that its ability Gale Wings, combined with the move Brave Bird, made Talonflame an absolute menace in VGC for quite some time until the ability was eventually nerfed. But that is just a fun kind of like subtle last feather in its cap. But I think a lot of Talonflame's place on this list is carried by its design and kind of like historical relevance to the franchise, and it being a Pokemon of Ash Ketchum. That's really where Talonflame shines and why Talonflame deserves a spot on this list. And now, finally, Pokemon 140, we have Samurott. Samurott is the water starter in Generation 5, but does get some great features later in the series, specifically in Pokemon Legends Arceus, which we love. A part of its resume, a starter Pokemon twice. If you are able to be a starter Pokemon more than once, that's a big deal. That is a big deal. Now, Samurott is a starter Pokemon in both the Black and White games and Pokemon Legends Arceus. And that regional form, the Samurott's design is pretty polarizing. I think some people really like how it's on all fours. I think a lot of people like kind of like the weird armored samurai vibe, but maybe not just exactly how it is oriented. The regional form, I think, is widely considered to be a bit of an upgrade. We actually have not seen this in our playthrough. We only have a do-what, shoe-body, do-what. But this is the regional form for Samurott in the Pokemon Legends Arceus game. It is a water dark type. And I think it's a really cool kind of like warped version. You kind of have like that bent up thorny horn instead of the straight more noble horn here on the original design. Really like that. And just being featured in Legends Arceus, honestly, I think Legends Arceus is one of the greatest Pokemon games I've ever made. So having such a big feature there is a big thing. Now, we have yet to play Gen 5. We definitely will on here on SCG. But it is an ace Pokemon of our rivals in that game, Cheren and Bianca, in the original Black and White. Also, I want to give a shout out to this Black 2 and White 2 trailer. Because Samurott was heavily featured in that. There was like an animated like 2-minute trailer for a Pokemon video game, which hasn't really happened much, if ever, in the series. And Samurott was heavily featured in that, and I always remember that, and I always remember Samurott being really cool for that. So I think that was kind of a big deal that they chose to feature it there, as they were promoting the sequel to the Black and White games. Oh, here we have Lugia's song, baby. Thank you, Braxton. Love Lugia, obviously, and love Lugia's song. Oh my gosh, love Lugia's song. And finally, with Samurott here, I want to shout out its alternate arts. Also, guys, I know they've been called alternate arts. They've been called trainer gallery cards, illustration rares, special illustration rares. I will use alt arts, art rares, illustration rare. I'll kind of use all of those interchangeably. So for all you TCG people out there, please don't kill me for that. But in Crown Zenith, it has a couple great cards. This Hisuian Samurott V-Star, where it's like sneaking up on this snow run, about ready to just devour its prey. So cool. Gotta love that. But the one that I love even more, and the one that I find to be so iconic and cool, is this one. Also from Crown Zenith, if it will load. Yes. Oh. As you can see, Samurott is just kind of like coming out of the lake with Mount Coronet in the background. You have the beautiful fall leaves. This is one of my favorite new Pokemon cards that they have released in the last several years. I love this card. Crown Zenith has so many great cards in it. And, I mean, this alone did a lot for me in putting Samurott on the list. Really love this card. But let's see here. With that, I think that is going to be it for tonight, folks. I am absolutely ecstatic about how many episodes we're going to get to have of this series. I won't do a full recap, kind of like I did last time. I'll do it kind of quickly, but as we get into the next batch, we are going to get into Pokemon that are more and more kind of like no doubters. We'll definitely still have some episodes where, it could be one, it couldn't be one, but I'm so excited to keep doing it with you. I'll probably try to do one of these a week for sure until we can finish it. But with that, thank you for being here with me tonight. This has been so much fun. Can't wait to keep going. But I got nothing else to say. We'll start with number 139 next time, and I'll see you then. Peace out, kids.